Hey everyone, this is Fabriello and welcome to a game discussion, and today we're going to talk about Ys Origin, last game that I finished and one of the latest games from one of my favorite franchise ever. Because I am actually a big Ys fan. It is today one of my favorite franchise of all time, but it is actually started quite randomly, I have to say, and it's thanks to Ys 3, Wonders from Ys, when it was released on the Super Nintendo back in the early 90s, I believe, although I bought it a bit later. And because back then this game was of course not released in Europe, so I have to bought an import version, and it happens actually quite a lot with us European gamers. We didn't have, for example, games like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 2 and 3, and Ys. So luckily for me, I had an adapter for North American games, but because of they were important, they were a little more expensive, so I couldn't buy them like really often. And also, since back then I didn't actually read magazines, video game magazines, until I had the PlayStation, um, I bought games quite randomly, basically based on the cover or on the backstory. If it like interests me, I was like, okay, this looks interesting. Let's give it a try. And this will happen with Ys 3. I looked at the cover, read back then, and thought, oh, looks pretty cool. Whatever this Wise is, because of course I called it Wise like everybody else, and I thought it looked interesting, and I bought it, started to play, and of course I love it from like the first moment. I love the gameplay, I love the music, and that's how my passion from Ys started. And after playing a lot of Ys 3, of course I got really curious about all the other games of the series, and the first two in particular, since the game said Ys 3, I said, like, what are Ys 1 and 2? How are they? But of course, unfortunately, they were never released over here, and um, also because, of course, I didn't have a TurboGrafx since it was extremely rare in Europe. I'm not even sure if it was released in Europe. So this book three was my first experience with the Ys series, and I love it. And for many years, unfortunately, will be my last. So I basically forgot Ys for a long time, since the release in Europe or with consoles that I own would just not happened. But luckily, like late 2008, early 2009, I found finally Book 1 and 2 on the TurboGrafx section of the Wii Virtual Console. And of course, I bought it like instantly, and I love it. It is one of my favorite games ever since. And of course, it's the first Virtual Console game that I ever bought, and I couldn't stop playing it. I love Book 1 and 2, such a great game. So as you can see, I love Ys, even though I didn't play a lot until recently. But back to Origin. It was released in 2006 by Falcom, only in Japan for the PC, but again, thanks to Exceed, it was re-released in 2012 on Steam. And what can I say about the release on Steam? Um, I have actually two opinions about it. I have to admit it, I am a bit disappointed because I would have loved a physical copy of the game to add in my collection. Uh, I actually saw it on eBay. It is possible to buy the Japanese version of it, of the game, but it is quite expensive, so I'm waiting to buy it. Maybe it will happen maybe later because it is expensive, especially since it's imported from Japan and I cannot play it and just have to play on Steam. So also, I'm actually very happy that the game was released on Steam at the same time because I know that if it would have been released normally, like with a physical copy, it would have been on a PSP, and I don't own it yet. So yes, I miss seven. So actually, I'm pretty glad that Origin was released on Steam, so that I have the chance to play it. And the story of Origin, it is a prequel, and it takes place 700 years before the events of Book 1, and tells us how ancient Ys actually vanished. So chronologically speaking, this is the first game, the first Ys game. And also, for the first time in the entire series, we are not playing as Adol Christian, the story main character of the series. And if you think about it, it is quite a big thing since kind of like Zelda without Link. Uh, but I think that after quite a short time, you get used to it, especially if you play with Unica. And because she is a very similar kind of character, and like if you play Ofin Falgana and then Origin with Unica, you'll see that it's basically the same thing. You're just as playing with Adol. The story of the game is that the twin goddesses of Ease, Fina and Rhea, um, left the sanctuary between they felt that something was wrong with the magic on Earth, and quite soon after, the people of Ease, realizing that they are missing and very worried, they actually decide to organize a search party in order to find them and protect them. Unica storyline is the one I finished so far, quite recently, and now I'm playing as Hugo. Um, is not focused only on the search of the goddesses, that is the main feature of the story, but also on her self-discovery, and that is pretty nice. I kind of like it. Since Unique at the beginning is just a very insecure young junior knight, it's called like that. But progressively with the story, she will grow as a person and as a knight until and at the, towards the end, she will discover her true strength and became like the main uh, member of the entire party. So overall, I kind of like this story. I mean, because I like Unica. I think that both her as a person and also her relationship with the goddesses are pretty well done. I like it, and also I think honestly that she is a very lovable character. Um, Origin also offers two more storylines and with respective characters. One with Hugo Fact, that he is a more distant kind of character, and a third one that you unlocked after completing the game with at least one of the others, called the Claw, that he is a melee type of character, but looks like more of a berserk and faster attacker than Unica. But I haven't played with him yet, so um, I don't know much about him yet. We'll see soon enough. The gameplay of Origin is the same as Altinfa, Ghana, and Ark of Napishtim. So it is again the kind of overhead action RPG. And I have to say, honestly, that I actually prefer the old style ease gameplay, the overhead bumping action kind of thing, over the button mashing style introduced by Book 6. Although I'm not saying that I don't like it, don't get me wrong. I mean, I found it very funny, engaging, addictive, but I've always felt that the bumping attacks had a true ease feeling. I mean, you knew you were playing ease when you have to bump into enemies, while pressing buttons for attacks. I just feel it more like a little more generic. It's not 100% ease, but again, it's not to really complain. I mean, I really like all these games, and so if you play Ultimate Ghana Ark of Napishtim before, you'll have absolutely no problem with Origin. Actually, you will feel at the right place. I mean, I, I play Ultimate Ghana before, and when I started play Origin, I just go on with the game without problem. I didn't need to read instructions or the tutorial, anything. It was just like this, completely natural. Um, Also, just as I did with Ultimate Ghana, I managed perfectly with no problems at all. Uh, just playing with my keyboard, I didn't need like any wireless controls or anything else. Um, I'm just using like a basic laptop keyboard and never had any real problems since I found it perfectly fluid and with no problems at all. So the gameplay is what you're expecting for these games now. Um, really funny, really fluid, very engaging. Overall, it is great, great, great fun. I just have one complaint with Origin, and that is that it takes place exclusively inside the Dark Tower. Even though there are different type of stages, like there is one underwater, a desert one, another with ice, everything, it's still inside the tower. And after a while, I grew like tired of seeing every time all these walls. So I think that more variety would have been much appreciated, especially if you compare it with other East games like Otin Falcana, Ark of Napishtim. Like they all have much more variety. And that's where E's origins suffer a little for me. Um, I think it would have been better just like if you progressively make your way to the Dark Tower and then claim it, more like Book One. Like we know, like in Book One, at least half of the game, maybe more, takes place inside the tower. But before, you have to go somewhere else, like the mines, the shrine, and other places. So it's not just inside the tower, even though it's a very important part of the game. That's the only real complaint that I have with Origin. Just more variety of level will be probably better for the game. And finally, let's talk about the music. I mean, when you're talking about the East game, you cannot not mention the music. Um, Personally, I've always loved video game music since I was a child. I always love it. It always been a very important part of the entire gaming experience for me since the NES days. And for me, uh, gradually, but since the first moment I played, the East series has some of the most amazing soundtracks ever. I mean, it is very hard, I mean, to um, beat the awesomeness of the East music. And I think the Origin really stands up to the East legacy of the other games, and it's a very nice addition to the series with its really good soundtrack. Maybe it is not as epic as Open Ghana, but we have to say that that game has some of the most amazing tracks ever. I mean, Open Ghana is one. The music of that game it's simply amazing. It's really really difficult to beat. But Origin really have really good tracks, and overall the music. I never had a moment that I grew tired of listening to some of this melody. Some of them are really well done. I think there were some like new versions of old East tracks. So overall, a very good soundtrack. Really stands up to the really big legacy that East game supposed to have. So finally, what can I say about Origin? Is this the best East game that you will play? No, it isn't. But it's still a very good and funny game. I highly recommend it. Not only to East fan, but um, every gamers who are interested in action RPG kind of games, this is for you. I mean, it's not as amazing as Ultim Falgana or other East game, but it's still very funny, has very good music, and really enjoyable. And also, it's a good thing that it's on Steam since it's easily available to everyone and buying it, it's a good way to support Exit so that they continue to release East game here in the West in English especially, and allowing to that the series will not be forgotten again. So it is important to support Exit, guys. Remember it. Uh, Keep buying Exit games. Just don't download it. I mean, they're on Steam. They're really easily available and they're not expensive. I bought Origin for like £7 or something like that, so not expensive at all. So in conclusion, guys, this is a really good game. Buy it. It's a good way to support Exit, so we will have more East game. So I think that's everything I should say about Origin. I hope you enjoy it. So see you next time and take care. And thanks for watching.